I need you to understand something right now, before I tell you what happened at my son's wedding. I'm not the kind of woman who looks for trouble. I've spent 30 years as a high school English teacher in Portland, Oregon. I raised Marcus alone after my husband died when he was just 7. I baked cookies for school fundraisers. I volunteered at the food bank. I was the mom who showed up to every soccer game, every debate tournament, every college move-in day. But on September 14th, at the Riverside estate overlooking the Willamette River, I watched my future daughter-in-law drop something into my champagne glass when she thought no one was looking, and I didn't say a word. The day started like any bride's dream. Warm autumn sunlight filtered through the vineyard where white chairs sat in perfect rows. Chelsea looked stunning in her dress, all lace and pearls and calculated perfection. My Marcus stood at the altar in his charcoal suit, and my heart should have been bursting with joy. Should have been. But for 8 months, something had felt wrong. I couldn't name it, couldn't prove it, but a mother knows. It started small. Marcus stopped returning my calls as quickly. Then came the subtle comments from Chelsea about how some mothers just can't let go, and how it's healthier for couples to establish boundaries. She said it with that smile, that practiced beauty pageant smile that never reached her cold blue eyes. When I tried to help plan the wedding, she thanked me so sweetly before ignoring every single suggestion I made. When I offered to host the rehearsal dinner, she explained that her mother, Patricia, had already taken care of everything, and wasn't it so generous of her? Marcus started parroting her words. "Mom, you need to respect our space. Mom, Chelsea thinks it's weird that you still have my baby photos up. Mom, we're adults now. My son. My beautiful, kind son who used to bring me dandelions and call them sunshine flowers. The boy who held my hand at his father's funeral and whispered, 'Don't worry, Mama. I'll take care of you.' Now he could barely look me in the eye. But I smiled. I stepped back. I told myself this was normal, that all mothers went through this when their sons got married. I bought the lies I sold myself because the alternative was too painful to consider. The ceremony was flawless. Chelsea's family filled the first 3 rows on the bride's side. Cousins, aunts, uncles, all dressed like they'd stepped out of a luxury catalog. Her mother, Patricia, sat front and center, draped in cream silk, her silver hair styled in an elegant twist. She'd barely spoken to me beyond polite pleasantries. The few times we'd met before, she'd looked at me like I was something stuck to her Prada shoe. My side had 12 people. My sister Janet, who'd driven up from Sacramento, a handful of Marcus's old friends, my neighbor Bill, who was basically family. That was it. No husband to walk me down the aisle, no extended family to fill the pews. Just me, the widow from the modest house on Elm Street, watching my only child marry into Oregon old money. The reception was held in a glass-walled pavilion overlooking the river. Crystal chandeliers, towers of white roses, a jazz band that probably cost more than my annual salary. I sat at a table near the back, even though I was mother of the groom. Chelsea had explained the seating chart was based on social dynamics and flow. I was placed with some distant relatives of Marcus's father, people I'd met maybe twice. I watched Marcus and Chelsea dance their first dance. I watched Patricia dab her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. I watched Chelsea's father, Gerald, give a toast about welcoming Marcus into the family, as if he were the one gaining something precious. No one mentioned me. No one asked me to speak. I excused myself to the ladies' room before dinner, needing a moment to breathe, to push down the lump in my throat. When I returned, the salad course was being served. My champagne glass sat at my place setting, bubbles rising lazily through golden liquid. That's when I saw it. Chelsea was standing near my table, her back to most of the room. She was checking her phone, but her other hand hovered over my champagne flute. I was maybe 15 feet away, partially hidden behind a floral arrangement. She glanced around quickly, that guilty, furtive look people get when they think they're alone. Then she pulled something from her small beaded clutch. A vial, tiny, no bigger than her thumb. My heart stopped. She tilted it over my glass. A clear liquid dripped out. 3 drops, 4, maybe 5. She did it so fast, so smoothly, like she'd practiced. Then she slipped the vial back into her clutch, picked up a napkin from the table, and walked away, dabbing at her lipstick like nothing had happened. I couldn't move. My brain screamed at me to do something, say something, but my body was frozen. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. Not at a wedding. Not from the woman my son just married. Not to me. But I'd seen it. Clear as day. I forced myself to walk back to my table on shaking legs. The champagne sat there, innocent and deadly. My mind raced through possibilities. Maybe it was a joke, some weird prank. But Chelsea wasn't the pranking type. She was controlled, measured, perfect. Maybe I'd imagined it? No. I knew what I saw. My hands trembled as I sat down. Around me, guests laughed and chatted. The band played something smooth and jazzy. Marcus and Chelsea were making rounds, greeting tables, smiling for photos. Everything was normal. Everything was wrong. I looked at that glass and knew I had two choices. I could drink it and find out what happens. Or I could cause a scene, accuse my new daughter-in-law of trying to poison me at her own wedding, with no proof except my word against hers. Who would believe me? The bitter mother-in-law who couldn't let go. They'd think I was jealous, delusional, desperate for attention. Chelsea would cry. Marcus would be mortified. I'd lose my son forever. My eyes drifted across the room and landed on Patricia, Chelsea's mother. She sat at the head table sipping her own champagne, looking bored and elegant. She'd barely acknowledged my existence all day. She'd raised Chelsea, molded her, created this perfect cold creature who'd stolen my son. An idea formed. Terrible, reckless, insane. But I was already standing, already moving. I picked up my champagne flute and walked toward the head table with a smile plastered on my face. My heart hammered so hard I thought people could hear it. "Patricia," I said warmly, approaching her. "I just wanted to thank you again for sharing this beautiful day. Everything is absolutely stunning." She looked up at me with mild surprise, as if she'd forgotten I existed. "Oh, Diane. Yes. Well, we wanted only the best for Chelsea." I held up my glass. A toast? To our children? Something flickered in her eyes. Confusion, maybe suspicion, but social breeding took over. She lifted her glass. "To Chelsea and Marcus." "And to Chelsea and Marcus," I echoed. Our glasses clinked. Here's where I made my move. As I pulled my glass back, I stumbled slightly, just enough to seem natural. "Oh goodness, these heels," I laughed. In the small commotion, I switched our glasses. Mine went to her, hers to me. It took 2 seconds. Sleight of hand learned from 30 years of confiscating past notes in classrooms. Patricia didn't notice. She was already turning back to her conversation with the woman beside her. I walked back to my table and sat down, my new glass in hand. Clean. Safe. Patricia had the poisoned one now. What had I just done? 15 minutes passed. I couldn't eat. I watched Patricia across the room laughing with guests, finishing her salad. She lifted the champagne glass, my champagne glass, and took a sip. Then another. Nothing happened. I started to feel foolish. Maybe I really had imagined the whole thing. Maybe those drops were something innocent, like allergy medicine Chelsea was trying to dissolve for someone. Maybe I was losing my mind. Then Patricia stood up suddenly. Her hand went to her throat. The woman next to her said something, concerned. Patricia shook her head, tried to smile, but her face had gone pale. She swayed. "Patricia," someone called out. She took a step and her legs buckled. She collapsed onto the table, sending plates and glasses crashing to the floor. The room erupted into chaos. People screamed. Gerald rushed to his wife's side. "Call 911!" someone shouted. Guests crowded around, trying to help, trying to see. The band stopped playing. Chelsea stood frozen near the cake table, her face drained of all color. But it wasn't concern I saw on her face. It was terror. Pure, unfiltered terror. I remained seated, watching everything unfold as if through glass. Paramedics arrived within 10 minutes. Thank God the venue was only 2 miles from Portland General. They loaded Patricia onto a stretcher. She was unconscious, her breathing shallow. Gerald climbed into the ambulance with her, his face gray with shock. The wedding was over. Guests gathered their things in stunned silence. Chelsea stood in the center of the pavilion in her white dress, staring at nothing. Marcus had his arm around her, but she wasn't crying. She was somewhere else entirely, her mind working through something. I walked over to them. "Is there anything I can do?" Marcus looked at me, his face stricken. "Mom, I don't know what happened. She just collapsed. Patricia's always been so healthy. Sometimes these things just happen, sweetheart," I said softly. I turned to Chelsea. "I'm so sorry. This must be terrifying for you." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw it. The moment she realized, her eyes dropped to my hand, still holding the champagne glass. Patricia's glass. Her face went from white to green. "Are you okay, Chelsea?" I asked. "You look like you might be ill too." "I'm fine," she said quickly, too quickly. She pulled away from Marcus. "I need to check on my mother. I need to—" She grabbed her clutch from a nearby chair and headed for the exit, her heels clicking frantically against the marble floor. I watched her go. Then I noticed her phone, lying on the table where she'd been sitting. She'd forgotten it in her panic. It buzzed. A text message lit up the screen. Did it work? Is she gone? I looked around. No one was watching me. Everyone was too caught up in the aftermath. I picked up the phone. The message was from a contact saved as F. My fingers moved before I could think better of it. I swiped up, expecting a password screen, but the phone unlocked. Chelsea must have disabled it for the wedding photos. I opened her messages with F. My blood ran cold as I scrolled through weeks of conversation. She's ruining everything. I can't stand another family dinner with her judging me. Your mother-in-law problem has a simple solution. I can get you something. Tasteless, fast-acting. What if Marcus finds out? He won't. It'll look like a heart attack. She's what, almost 60? It's believable. What about after? Won't they test for it? Not if you do it right. Public place. Lots of witnesses. Make sure she's stressed. Everyone will think it was natural causes. And even if they test, this compound breaks down quickly. Undetectable after 6 hours. The messages went on. Planning. Scheming. My death. Discussed like a grocery list. The most recent message from just 3 hours ago. Today's the day. Don't lose your nerve. After this, she'll be gone and the house will be yours. Just like we planned. The house, my house. The house my husband left me. The house Chelsea had been pestering Marcus to help me sell so they could invest the money for my future. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. "Mom?" I spun around. Marcus stood behind me, his face full of worry and confusion. "What are you doing with Chelsea's phone?" I looked at my son, this man I'd raised, who'd forgotten who I was, who I'd always been to him. I looked at the messages on the screen, and I made a decision. "Marcus, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to want to believe me." "Mom, what? Your wife just tried to kill me." He stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. "What are you talking about?" I showed him the phone. His eyes scanned the messages. I watched his face change, watched denial fight with dawning horror. "This doesn't mean—" he started. "I saw her put something in my champagne glass, Marcus. Before dinner. I switched my glass with her mother's. That's why Patricia collapsed." The color drained from his face. No, you're wrong. You must have seen something else. Chelsea wouldn't— Read the messages, Marcus. She was planning to kill me. Today. At your wedding. He took the phone from me with shaking hands, scrolling through the conversation himself, reading every damning word. I watched my son's world crumble in real time. "Who is F?" he whispered. "I don't know, but we need to call the police. Now." That's when Chelsea came back through the entrance doors. She saw us standing there, saw her phone in Marcus's hands, and she knew. Her face went through a dozen emotions in 2 seconds. Fear, calculation, desperation. Then she ran, not toward us, toward the parking lot. "Chelsea!" Marcus shouted, but she was already gone, her white dress disappearing into the darkness beyond the pavilion lights. Marcus started after her, but I grabbed his arm. Let her go. The police will find her. Mom, I don't understand. I don't. His voice broke. She was going to kill you? At our wedding? I pulled my son into my arms, this child who'd grown into a man I barely recognized anymore, and I held him while he cried. Held him like I did when he was 7 and his father died. Held him while the truth of what he'd married destroyed the life he thought he was building. Around us, the wedding ruins waited. Overturned tables, abandoned flowers, a cake that would never be cut. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it without thinking. Heavy breathing on the other end, then a voice, female, shaking with rage. You stupid woman, you should be dead right now. Do you understand what you've done? Do you have any idea what's coming for you? It was Chelsea. You're finished, she hissed. You and your pathetic son. You think you've won? You've just signed both your death warrants. The line went dead. I looked at Marcus, saw the question in his eyes. I didn't have to tell him what she'd said. He'd heard enough of the one-sided conversation to understand. His wife hadn't just tried to kill his mother. She'd threatened to finish the job. And somewhere out there in the Portland night, she was planning exactly how to do it. The police arrived 20 minutes after Chelsea's phone call. By then, Marcus and I had moved to a quiet corner of the venue's lobby, away from the remaining guests who lingered in shocked clusters, whispering about Patricia's collapse and the bride's dramatic exit. Detective Sarah Reynolds was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp brown eyes and dark hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail. She wore slacks and a blazer, her badge clipped to her belt. Her partner, Officer Tom Chen, took notes while she questioned us. Mrs. Hartwell, Detective Reynolds said, her voice calm and professional. Walk me through exactly what you saw. I told her everything. The vial, the drops in my glass, the switch, Patricia's collapse, the messages on Chelsea's phone. Marcus sat beside me, silent and hollow-eyed, still processing the destruction of his wedding day and his marriage in one devastating blow. Detective Reynolds examined Chelsea's phone, her expression growing darker with each message she read. This contact. Pho. Do you have any idea who that might be? No, I admitted. But whoever it is helped her plan this, provided whatever poison she used. We'll need to run a full toxicology screen on Patricia Morgan, Reynolds said. She's at Portland General, correct? Marcus nodded mutely. And you switched glasses with her, Reynolds continued, looking at me. That was incredibly dangerous, Mrs. Hartwell. I know, I said, but I couldn't let her kill me, and I couldn't prove what I'd seen without evidence. You could have alerted security, called for help. Who would have believed me? My son just married this woman. Everyone thinks I'm the difficult mother-in-law. Chelsea made sure of that. My voice cracked slightly. I needed proof. Reynolds studied me for a long moment, then nodded. I understand. But from this point forward, you let us handle it. Chelsea Morgan, or Chelsea Hartwell now, is considered armed and dangerous. She's made direct threats against you and potentially your son. We're issuing a warrant for her arrest. She won't get far, Officer Chen added. We've already flagged her credit cards and put out an APB. Her car is still in the parking lot here, so she's on foot or got a ride. From F, probably, I said. Whoever that is. Detective Reynolds made a note. We'll trace every contact in this phone. In the meantime, I need both of you to go home, lock your doors, and stay put. Don't answer the door for anyone you don't know. We'll have a patrol car swing by your addresses every few hours. Marcus finally spoke, his voice raw. I married her. I brought her into our lives. This is my fault. I took his hand. Sweetheart, no. You couldn't have known, but you did, didn't you? He looked at me with anguished eyes. You tried to tell me something was wrong. For months. And I didn't listen. I chose her over you. The truth of that hung between us, painful and undeniable. We'll discuss it later, I said gently. Right now, we need to focus on staying safe. We gave our formal statements, provided contact information, and finally left the Riverside estate. The venue that had been decorated for celebration now felt like a crime scene. Police tape blocked off the pavilion. Forensic teams were collecting evidence. The cake sat abandoned. Its top tier collapsed where someone had bumped the table during Patricia's collapse. Marcus drove me home in silence. When we pulled up to my small house on Elm Street, the house Chelsea had wanted me to sell, the house she'd planned to profit from after murdering me, he turned off the engine but didn't move. "I need to know something, Mom," he said quietly. "When did I become someone who would choose a woman I'd known for 2 years over the mother who raised me alone?" Tears burned my eyes. "When you fell in love, that's what you're supposed to do, Marcus. Build your own life. I never blamed you for that. But she isolated me from you, deliberately, and I let her." He pressed his palms against his eyes. "God, I let her convince me you were the problem, that you were controlling, overbearing. She'd say things like, 'Your mother called again,' with this tone, like you were stalking me, and I started to believe it. That's what manipulators do," I said softly. "They separate you from people who might see through them. Chelsea needed you away from me because I was the one person who could see what she really was." "How? How did you know?" I thought about that. Little things. The way she'd smile at me when you weren't looking. It never reached her eyes. The comments that sounded sweet but had barbs in them. How she'd touch your arm when she wanted you to agree with her, this little possessive gesture. And mostly, the way you changed. You stopped laughing as much, stopped calling just to chat. You became careful around me, like you were walking on eggshells. Marcus leaned his head back against the seat. "I'm so sorry, Mom." "I know, baby, I know." We sat there for a few more minutes before he walked me to my door, checked every room in my house like he used to check for monsters under his bed when he was little, and made me promise to call him immediately if anything felt wrong. After he left, I locked the deadbolt, something I rarely did, and stood in my quiet living room. The house felt different now, violated. Chelsea had been here for dinners, for holidays. She'd sat on my couch, eaten at my table, smiled her cold smile, and planned my death the entire time. I couldn't sleep that night. Every sound made me jump. I kept seeing those drops falling into my champagne glass, kept hearing Chelsea's voice on the phone. "You've just signed both your death warrants." Around 3 a.m, my phone rang. Marcus. "Mom, Patricia's awake," he said. "I'm at the hospital with Gerald. The doctors say she's stable, but, Mom, they found something in her blood. Some kind of sedative mixed with another compound. They're still running tests, but it's definitely intentional poisoning." My heart raced. So they know it wasn't natural. They know. Detective Reynolds is here. She wants to talk to Patricia when she's strong enough. And Chelsea? Still missing. But Mom, there's something else. He paused. "Patricia asked to speak to you." That surprised me. Why would she want to talk to me? "I don't know, but she was pretty insistent. Can you come down here?" I dressed quickly, drove to Portland General with my doors locked and my eyes checking the rearview mirror every few seconds. The hospital's fluorescent lights felt harsh after the darkness outside. Marcus met me on the 4th floor, looking exhausted in his rumpled wedding suit. "She's in room 412, he said. "Gerald's with her, but she asked to speak to you privately." I walked down the sterile hallway, my stomach in knots. Patricia Morgan had barely acknowledged my existence before tonight. Now she wanted a private conversation after nearly dying from poison meant for me. I knocked softly on the door. Gerald opened it, his face haggard. He was still wearing his wedding tuxedo, wrinkled now, his bow tie hanging loose. "Diane," he said, his voice hoarse. "Thank you for coming." Patricia lay in the hospital bed, an IV in her arm, monitors beeping softly around her. She looked smaller somehow, stripped of her usual elegance. Her silver hair was loose around her shoulders, her face pale without makeup. "Leave us, Gerald," she said weakly. He hesitated, then nodded and slipped out, closing the door behind him. Patricia looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, "That drink was meant for you, wasn't it?" I stood at the foot of her bed, not sure how to answer. "The police are investigating." "Don't lie to me. I know my daughter." Her voice was bitter. "I know what she is. I've always known." The admission shocked me into silence. "Sit down, Diane," Patricia said. gesturing to the chair beside her bed. "We need to talk about Chelsea, and we don't have much time." I sat, confused. Time for what? Time before she does something worse. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "I need to tell you things. Things I should have told someone years ago. Things I've been too ashamed, too afraid to admit. Mrs. Morgan, Patricia, please." She took a shaky breath. "Chelsea is not who you think she is. She's not who anyone thinks she is. And it's my fault. I made her this way." The monitors beeped steadily in the silence that followed. "When Chelsea was 8 years old," Patricia began, "our dog died. Old age, nothing dramatic. But Chelsea didn't cry. She smiled. I caught her in the backyard, standing over where we'd buried him, smiling. When I asked her why, she said, 'Now I don't have to share Daddy's attention anymore.'" A chill ran down my spine. I told myself it was just a child's strange way of processing grief. But then other things happened. Her hamster died. She'd forgotten to feed it. Her friend Emma stopped coming over after Emma's favorite bracelet went missing, and I later found it hidden in Chelsea's room. When I confronted her, she looked me right in the eye and said Emma had given it to her. She was so convincing, I almost believed her. Patricia's hands trembled as she adjusted her blanket. By the time she was a teenager, she'd learned to hide it better. The cruelty became subtle. She'd spread rumors about girls she didn't like, but always with plausible deniability. She'd manipulate her father into buying her things by making him feel guilty. She learned exactly what to say, how to act, to get what she wanted. And I let it happen. I told myself she was just ambitious, driven, a go-getter. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because you saved my life tonight, and because I think my daughter is capable of far worse than poisoning a glass of champagne." Patricia's voice dropped to a whisper. 3 years ago, Chelsea was engaged to another man, Andrew. Sweet boy, came from money. They dated for a year, got engaged, and then suddenly he broke it off. Wouldn't say why. Just packed up and moved to Boston. What happened? I don't know for certain, but 2 weeks before he left, his sister died. Car accident. Brakes failed on a mountain road. The police ruled it accidental, but Andrew was never the same after. He looked terrified at the funeral. And Chelsea. Patricia's voice broke. Chelsea seemed annoyed, like his grief was inconvenient. My blood ran cold. You think Chelsea had something to do with it? I think Andrew suspected something he couldn't prove. And I think he ran before he became another accident. Patricia wiped her eyes. After that, she met your son. And I thought, maybe this time would be different. Marcus is good, kind. Maybe he'd bring out something better in her. But instead, she started talking about your house, about how Marcus deserved his inheritance, about how you were standing in the way of their future. She wanted me dead for my house? She wanted you dead because you saw through her. The house was just justification. Patricia looked at me with desperate intensity. Diane, my daughter is missing right now, and when she resurfaces, she's going to try again. Not just against you, against anyone she thinks is in her way, including Marcus, if he tries to stop her. The police will find her. No, you don't understand. Patricia struggled to sit up straighter. Chelsea has been planning for contingencies her entire life. She has money hidden away that Gerald doesn't know about. She has a friend, a man she's been in contact with for months. F. My heart skipped. You know who F is? Dr. Frank Morrison, a pharmacist. He worked at the pharmacy where Chelsea picked up her allergy medication. They started an affair about 6 months ago. Gerald and I didn't know, but I found hotel receipts in her car last month. I confronted her and she cried, said it was over, begged me not to tell Gerald or Marcus, said she'd made a terrible mistake. Patricia laughed bitterly. I believed her. Again. I always believed her. Does Detective Reynolds know about him? I haven't told anyone. I was protecting my daughter, even after everything. But now. She gestured to the IV in her arm. Now I understand. Frank Morrison has access to drugs, sedatives, poisons, whatever Chelsea needs. And if she's with him right now, she's not just running, she's planning. I pulled out my phone and texted Detective Reynolds immediately. Patricia knows who F is. Dr. Frank Morrison, pharmacist. Having affair with Chelsea, maybe helping her hide. The response came within a minute. On it. Stay at hospital. We're sending someone to guard Patricia's room. I looked back at Patricia. Why are you helping me now? You've ignored me since the day we met. Because I was jealous, she admitted quietly. You raised a good man, Diane. A genuinely good man. I raised a monster and dressed her in designer clothes. Every time I saw you and Marcus together, saw the way he looked at you with real love and respect, I was reminded of what I'd failed to create with Chelsea. So I kept my distance. I let her push you away because it was easier than admitting the truth about my own daughter. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But tonight, when I woke up in this hospital bed and they told me I'd been poisoned, I knew. Immediately, I knew it was Chelsea. And I knew that glass wasn't meant for me. A knock at the door interrupted us. Detective Reynolds entered, her expression grim. Mrs. Morgan, Mrs. Hartwell, we've located Dr. Frank Morrison's apartment. We're heading there now with a warrant. He's not answering his phone, and his car is still in his driveway, so we believe he may be inside with Chelsea or have information about her whereabouts. Be careful, Patricia said, if Chelsea feels cornered. We're aware of the danger, Reynolds assured her. A uniformed officer will be stationed outside your room for the remainder of the night. Mrs. Hartwell, I need you to go home and stay there. We'll have patrol cars monitoring your street. I wanted to argue, to be part of whatever was about to happen, but I knew she was right. I was a high school English teacher, not a detective. The best thing I could do was stay out of the way. But as I left Patricia's room and walked back toward the elevator, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You really thought switching glasses would save you? How naive. Patricia was never the real target. She was just practice. You took something from me, Diane. You ruined my perfect day. Now I'm going to ruin everything you love, starting with Marcus. Attached was a photo. My son's apartment building. Time stamped, 6 minutes ago. I ran for the elevator, my fingers fumbling with my phone as I called Marcus. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Come on, pick up. I whispered desperately. It went to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. The elevator doors opened and I burst into the lobby, nearly colliding with a nurse. Sorry, I gasped, sprinting for the exit. Detective Reynolds called after me. Mrs. Hartwell, where are you going? Marcus! She's at Marcus's apartment! I shouted back. I didn't wait to see if she followed. I ran to my car, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. Marcus lived 15 minutes away in a modern complex downtown. 15 minutes that Chelsea could use to do God knows what. I drove like I'd never driven before, running a red light, taking corners too fast, my phone on speaker calling Marcus over and over with no answer. Please be okay, I prayed. Please, God, let him be okay. When I screeched into Marcus's parking lot, I saw his car in its usual spot. The lights were off in his third-floor apartment. Everything looked normal. Too normal. I grabbed my phone and called 911 as I ran for the building entrance. My son is in danger. Someone made a threat against him. 840 Pine Street, apartment 3C. Please hurry. The building door was propped open slightly, a violation of security that made my stomach drop. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The hallway on the 3rd floor was empty and quiet. Marcus's door was closed. I knocked frantically. Marcus, open up. It's Mom. Nothing. I tried the handle. Unlocked. The door swung open into darkness. Marcus, I called, stepping inside, feeling for the light switch. The lights came on. My son sat in his living room chair, very still, very pale. And standing behind him, with a kitchen knife pressed to his throat, was Chelsea. She still wore her wedding dress, now dirty and torn at the hem. Her hair had fallen from its elegant updo, hanging in tangled waves around her face. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. But her eyes were clear and cold and utterly calm. Hello, Diane, she said pleasantly. as if we'd met for tea. So glad you could join us for the real reception. Time stopped. Every detail became impossibly sharp. The way Chelsea's knuckles were white around the knife handle, the bead of sweat rolling down Marcus's temple, the faint smell of her perfume mixed with something chemical and wrong. "Don't move," Chelsea said, her voice eerily pleasant. "Don't scream. Don't do anything stupid, or I'll open his throat right here." "Chelsea," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Put the knife down." She laughed, brittle and sharp. "Put it down? You still don't get it, do you? I'm not trying to help anyone. I'm trying to fix what you destroyed." "I didn't destroy anything." "You destroyed everything!" The pleasant mask cracked. The knife pressed harder against Marcus's throat. A thin line of blood appeared. This was supposed to be perfect. My perfect day. You were supposed to drink that champagne during the toast. You were supposed to collapse, and everyone would think it was a heart attack. It would have been so clean. "But I switched the glasses," I said, buying time. The police were coming. "But you switched the glasses," she echoed bitterly. "And now the police are involved. You were supposed to die quietly, Diane. Conveniently." Marcus found his voice. "Chelsea, why? Why did you want to kill my mother?" She ran her free hand through his hair, a gesture that would have seemed loving if not for the knife. "Oh, honey, your mother was just in the way. That house of hers is worth almost $800,000, and her life insurance, another $500,000. She made you the sole beneficiary. She told me at Christmas. The memory hit me. Christmas dinner, Chelsea asking about my will." "So I would inherit it all," Marcus whispered. "And then we'd have it all. Together. Your money would be my money. We'd sell that house, collect the insurance, and finally have the life I deserve." Her voice turned sharp. "Do you know what it's like growing up with money but never quite enough? I needed security. Your mother's death would have given us that. Then, eventually, maybe you'd have a tragic accident too, and I'd be the wealthy, grieving widow." The casual way she discussed murdering her own husband made my blood run cold. "Frank Morrison helped you," I said. "Your pharmacist lover. Your mother told me everything. She's talking to the police right now." Genuine fear flashed across Chelsea's face. "My mother wouldn't." "Your mother almost died because of you. She said she always knew what you were. She told me about Andrew, about his sister's accident." "Did you kill that girl too?" "Shut up." The knife trembled. "Chelsea, please," Marcus said. "Let's just talk." "Talk?" She stared at him. "The moment I leave this apartment, I'm going to prison. The only way forward is to eliminate the witness." "Witnesses," I corrected. "You can't kill both of us." "Can't I?" "Murder-suicide." Distraught groom, overwhelmed by his mother's accusations, snaps. Kills his mother, then himself. It's tragic, and I'm the devastated survivor. "The police know you're here," I said desperately. "I called 911. Then we'd better hurry." Chelsea adjusted her grip on the knife. That's when Marcus moved. He grabbed her wrist, twisting away from his throat as he threw himself sideways. The knife slashed through empty air. Chelsea screamed and lunged after him, but I was already moving. I grabbed the table lamp and swung it at her head. It connected with a solid thunk. She staggered, losing her grip on the knife. It clattered to the floor. Marcus kicked it away. Chelsea recovered fast. She grabbed a glass vase and hurled it at me. I ducked. It shattered against the wall. Then she ran for the door. Marcus caught her arm. They struggled, crashing into the coffee table. I heard footsteps pounding up the stairs. The police, finally. Chelsea fought like a cornered animal, clawing at Marcus's face, drawing blood. She grabbed broken glass and slashed his arm. He cried out, releasing her. She scrambled toward the door again. I stepped in front of her. "Move," she snarled. "No." She raised the glass shard. "I will cut you." "Then do it," I said. "But you're not leaving." "It ends here, Chelsea." We faced each other. This woman who'd tried to poison me, who'd threatened my son, who'd probably killed before. "You were supposed to be easy," she whispered, the weak link. "I'm not weak," I said quietly. "I'm a mother protecting her child, and there's nothing more dangerous than that." The door burst open. "Police! Drop the weapon!" Detective Reynolds stood with her gun drawn, 3 officers behind her. Chelsea seemed to deflate. The glass slipped from her fingers. She sank to her knees in her destroyed wedding dress, tears streaming down her face. "It was her," Chelsea sobbed, pointing at me. "She's been harassing me, threatening me. She's obsessed." "Save it," Reynolds said coldly. "We found Dr. Morrison. He's cooperating, gave us everything, and we listened to your entire conversation." Officers were positioned outside. Chelsea's face went blank. The performance dropped away. "I want a lawyer." "You'll get one," Reynolds said as officers moved forward with handcuffs. "Chelsea Hartwell, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, assault, and making terroristic threats." As they led her away, Chelsea looked back at me one last time. Those cold blue eyes assessing, measuring, even in defeat. "This isn't over," she mouthed. But it was. Whatever power she'd held over us, it was broken. The trial came 6 months later. Dr. Frank Morrison admitted to providing the poison compound, believing Chelsea's fabricated story about an abusive mother-in-law. But investigators revealed he'd been in financial trouble, gambling debts piling up. Chelsea had promised him money once her inheritance came through. Boston police reopened Andrew's sister's case. They couldn't prove Chelsea had tampered with the brakes, but Andrew came forward with his statement about her suspicious behavior before his sister's death. "I knew," Andrew said in his recorded interview, "but I was terrified. She threatened to destroy my career if I told anyone. So I ran. I've lived with that guilt every day since." The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. 35 years in prison without possibility of parole for 15 years. When the sentence was read, Chelsea showed no emotion. She simply stood there in her prison jumpsuit, looking like a completely different person from the beautiful bride in the wedding photos. As they led her away, she looked at Marcus one last time, but Marcus looked right through her. The woman he'd married didn't exist. Maybe she never had. Marcus moved back in with me while he processed everything. We talked. Really talked. About the isolation Chelsea had created, the manipulation, the warning signs. About the guilt he carried for choosing her over me, and the forgiveness I freely gave. Patricia divorced Gerald 6 months after the trial. "I can't stay married to a man who taught our daughter that image matters more than character," she told me. We'd become unlikely friends. She sold their mansion and started volunteering with organizations that helped victims of family manipulation. "I can't undo what Chelsea is," Patricia said one afternoon, "but I can make sure other families recognize the warning signs I ignored." Marcus eventually moved into a new apartment, started therapy, and slowly began dating again. Me? I went back to teaching, back to my quiet life. But something had changed. I was stronger than I'd ever imagined. I also started speaking at community centers about family manipulation and dangerous relationships. If my story could help even one person, it was worth it. On the 1-year anniversary of what should have been Marcus's wedding day, he came over for dinner. We cooked together, his father's famous lasagna recipe. That day at the wedding, when you saw Chelsea put something in your glass, why switch it with Patricia? "Why not just pour it out?" Marcus asked. "I think I needed proof," I said. "If I'd just poured it out, Chelsea would have tried again." By switching the glasses, I forced her hand. I made her reveal herself. "You took a huge risk." "I did, and I'd do it again, because you were worth it. You've always been worth it." He hugged me tight. "I love you, Mom. I'm sorry I ever forgot that. I never doubted it," I whispered. "Not for a second." 2 years later, I received a letter from prison. Chelsea's handwriting. Just 3 sentences. "I've had a lot of time to think. You weren't supposed to win, but you did." No apology, no remorse, just acknowledgement of defeat. I threw the letter away without responding. Chelsea didn't deserve any more of my energy. 3 years after everything happened, Marcus was getting married again. To Sarah, a woman who'd helped him heal, who saw the good in him. It would be a small ceremony, just close friends and family. Patricia would be there, even Andrew having made peace with his trauma. As I planted roses in my backyard, read for surviving love, white for new beginnings. Marcus and Sarah pulled up, laughing about something. "Hey, Mom," he called. "We brought lunch." I stood up, brushing dirt from my jeans, and smiled at my son and his future wife, at the life we'd fought for and won. "I'm starving," I said. And I was. Hungry for life, for love, for all the days stretching ahead, days Chelsea had tried to steal, but failed, because in the end, her poison hadn't been strong enough. Her plans hadn't been clever enough. Love was stronger. Truth was stronger. And we were stronger than she'd ever imagined. That night, as I prepared for bed in my house on Elm Street, the house I'd almost died for, I looked at myself in the mirror. The same woman, but different. I'd survived attempted murder. I'd saved my son. I'd rebuilt what had been broken. I'd won. And tomorrow I'd wake up and do it all again. Live, love, teach, fight for what matters. That was my revenge. Not anger, not bitterness. Just living well. Just being here. Just refusing to let someone else's darkness extinguish my light. I turned off the light and went to sleep, peaceful and unafraid, in the house Chelsea had tried to claim with my death. But I was still here, and I always would be.